Hello and welcome to today's lesson. The learning objective is to understand how to sketch quadratic graphs by using factorization. The success criteria is as followed. 1. Rearrange quadratic equations so that it can be factorized. 2. Able to factorize a range of quadratic expressions. 3. Read coordinates including coordinates from a table of values. And finally 4. Plot coordinates including coordinates from a table of values. The next slide will be the retrieve practice. Make sure to pause the video and give yourself time to complete these questions. Here are the answers. Make sure to mark your work in green pen. Alright, so let's say we have the equation y equals x squared plus 6x plus 5. And we want to sketch that graph. Our first step would be to find what the y-intercept is. So the y-intercept. Okay, so we know that our equations, that the constant in the equation is always going to be the y-intercept, because that's when x equals 0. Okay, so if we sub x equals 0 into the equation, what we'd be left with is y equals 5. So it's always going to be the constant, so the number that doesn't have an x attached to it, basically. So our y-intercept is 0, 5, because the x is the one that's 0 and it's the y that is 5. Our step 2, we need to factorize it. So we need to make the equation equal 0. Okay, because we are finding the x-intercept. So basically the roots of the graph. Roots. So the roots of the graph is where it crosses the x-axis. And we can find x-intercept at when y equals 0. Okay, so what we're going to do is make our graph equal 0. So what we have is 0 equals x squared plus 6x plus 5. And we want to basically find out what x equals when y is 0. Now to find that, to solve this equation, we need to factorize. So step 3 will be factorize. You need to factorize the expression. So in order to factorize, we need to put it back into the brackets. So we need to find the factors of 5 that when they add together, we get positive 6. Okay? So when they add together, we get positive 6. So let's look at the different factors of 5. So we have 1 and 5. Okay? So to be honest, those are the only factors we have because 5 is a prime number. So let's try this out. So 5 plus 1 equals 6. All right. So yes, now we can now put into the brackets. So what we have is 0 equals x plus 1, x plus 5. Okay, so when we factorize, we can even check if that's correct. When we multiply out the brackets in the corner over here, we can check if we factorized it correctly. And I suggest that you always check if you factorize it correctly. So x1 there, x5, x squared, 5x, 1x, and 5. And when we add them all together, yes, we do get x squared plus 6x plus 5. All right, so we factorized it correctly. Our fourth step, we need to solve for x. And how we do that, we make each individual bracket equal 0. So x plus 1, we make that equal 0. And we make x a subject, so x equals negative 1. Okay, and when we would write that as a coordinate, that would be -1, 0. Because like we said, y equals 0 at that point. So now let's make our second bracket equal 0. So x equals -5. And as a coordinate, it would be -5, 0. Right, now let's plot our 3 coordinates on our graph. So I'm going to do a little sketch over here. So our final step is to sketch it now, to plot it all on our graph. So the y-intercept was 0, 5, and our coordinates, the roots, were here. So now what you're going to do, you're going to do a nice lovely U shape through these points, because as you can tell, the graph is a positive graph. Okay, so the x squared doesn't have a negative numerical coefficient, so it's going to be a lovely U shape. And it's going to look like this. And that's how you sketch. So pause the video, copy down the notes, and we're going to be doing a session of I do, we do questions. Okay, let's go over how to do these sets of questions. So we're going to do the same step. We're going to find our y-intercept. Okay, so the y-intercept is going to be the constant, and the constant is 36. So when we actually write that down, the coordinate is going to be 0, 36. Great, first step is done. Now it says that we need to solve the equation 0 equals x squared minus 15x plus 36. And we're going to do that now. Right, perfect. Let's have a go at it. So we need to find the factors of 36, that when they add together, we get -15. So from that, we can already tell that both factors must be negative in order for them to add together to make -15. So let's look at the different combinations. So negative factors of 36. So we have -1, -36. But when they add together, we get -37, so that's not right. -12 plus -12 and -3. We get -15, so that's the correct combination. So let's now put it back into the brackets. So 0 equals x minus 12, close bracket, open bracket, x minus 3. So now we can use this to solve for x and basically find out the roots of the graph. So 0 equals x minus 12. Make x the subject. Therefore, x equals 12, and the coordinate is going to be 12, 0. Let's do this for the next side. 0 equals x minus 3. There was no need for me to put the brackets there, sorry. X equals 3. So the coordinate is 3, 0. So now we have our 3 coordinates. Now we can sketch this perfectly. So our 3 coordinates, we can do a nice sketch. I'm going to do a sketch over here. So our first one is 36. Next one is 3, and next one is 12. Okay, we know that this is going to be a U-shaped. U-shaped because the x squared does not have a negative numerical coefficient. Okay, there's not a negative number attached to the x squared. So it's going to be a lovely U-shape, and we're now going to sketch it. And it looks like this. Okay, so make sure pause the video, have a go, and try doing the we do question by yourself. Sorry about that. We're going to go over the answer for this one here. So when we factorize it, what we get is 0 equals x minus 4 and x minus 9. And then we will plot it, and our graph is going to look like this. So your graph should look like this. Okay, let's go on to the next slide now. All right, so we need to find the factors of negative 36 that when they add together, we get negative 16. Okay, so from that, looking at that, the negative factor is going to have to be bigger. So negative 36 has two factors, a positive one and a negative one. But the negative one is going to have to be bigger than the positive one. So factors of negative 36. So let's think about the different combinations. There is negative 18 and positive 2. And that is correct. That is negative 16. So now we factorize it. So 0 equals bracket x minus 18, close bracket x plus 2. Okay. Sorry, we skipped the first step. Obviously, we know that the y-intercept is going to be 0, negative 36, because the constant is negative 36. I'm going to make each individual bracket. We're going to skip down here. We're going to make each individual bracket equal 0 to find out the roots. 0 equals x minus 18. X equals 18. And then when we write that as a coordinate, it's going to be 18, 0. Now we're going to make our second bracket equal 0. And that is x equals negative 2. So our coordinate is negative 2, 0. So we're going to sketch it over here using our 3 points. Negative 36, negative 2, and 18. Obviously, this is not to scale. So we know that it's going to be a U-shape because the x squared has a positive numerical coefficient. So our graph is going to look something like this. So make sure to pause the video and have a go at the next one. Okay, our next graph is going to look like this. So the y-intercept is negative 36. And when we factorize it, what we do end up getting is bracket x minus 12 x plus 3, because negative 12 plus 3 equals negative 9. So our 12 is going to be there and our negative 3. And then it's going to have a U shape. It's going to look like this. All right, so that's the answer for the next one. Let's look at the next slide. Okay, so we need to find out the different combinations of the factors of 36 that will add together to get 12. And right off the bat, I can tell that's going to be 6, because 6 plus 6 equals 12. But remember, the first step is to find out the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is the constant. So it's going to be 0, 36. Let's get to the factorizing now. All right, so this only has one root, okay? So 0 equals x plus 36. So x is negative 36. Okay, and the coordinate for that will be negative 6, 0. So let's sketch it, this one root graph. So what I mean by one root, it means it only crosses the x-axis at one place. Okay, so 36 and negative 6 here. And our graph is going to look like this. Alright, so pause the video, make a copy of the I do in your notes, and now have a go at the we do question. Okay, so with this one, the we do, let's mark it now. The y-intercept is going to be 0, 9, because 9 is a constant. When we factorize it, what we end up getting is 0 equals x plus 3, x plus 3, because 3 times 3 equals 9, but when you add 3 and 3, you get 6. Okay, so now we're going to find out what x equals. X by making each individual bracket equal 0. So x is -3. So our coordinate for that is going to be -3, 0. So now let's plot our coordinates. This is the one root graph, so it touches at one place. The numerical coefficient is positive, so it's going to be a U shape. Using this information, let's now sketch this graph. That's our answer here. Okay, make sure to pause the video if you want to make notes. We're going to be moving forward now. Alright, so with this one here, there's two ways you can do it. Okay. Preferably, I like to just make the equation equal 0 straight away, and I don't even bother factorizing it, but I'll just show you the way that I would do it. So let's first find the first question. So we need to find out the y-intercept. -4 is the constant here. So the y-intercept is going to be 0, -4. And it says B, solve the equation when 0 equals x squared minus 4. So I'm going to do just that. And I'm going to make x the subject of this equation. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And then I'm going to square root both sides. So x equals plus or minus 2. The reason why I say that is why it's plus or minus 2, or plus or -2, is because -2 times -2 does in fact equal 4. And obviously 2 times 2 equals 4. So there's two possible answers. So that's why I say plus or minus. So as a coordinate, we have two coordinates, and that will be written as 2, 0 and -2, 0. Let's sketch it now with our 3 points. -4, y-intercept, 2, 2. And our graph is going to look like this. Right, pause the video and have a go at the we do question. Okay, let's go through that question. So we know that our y-intercept is -9. It's going to be 0, -9. And then we make 0 equal x squared minus 9. We rearrange and make x the subject. So what we get is 9 equals x squared. Therefore, x is plus or -3. And our coordinate would be 3, 0 and -3, 0. When we sketch it, it's going to look like this. Okay. Make sure to mark your work in green pen, and I'm going to be moving on to the next slide now. Here are the questions. Make sure to pause the video and have a good go at them. Here are the answers for the factorizing bit. Right, factorize and find the roots of each of these. So you don't need to sketch the graph for this. Great job, well done. You worked so hard this lesson. Make sure you give yourself a pat on the back.